wide, staying shut for at least 2 more weeks.
Nothing, and I mean nothing, is more important right now than keeping you and your loved ones safe.
Toronto and Peel will remain in lockdown, while in York Region, some restrictions will be lifted come Monday. Why some doctors worry this plan could backfire. Plus,
it is far safer for people who are living outside to come inside.
the city seeking an injunction to stop the placement of wooden shelters in Toronto parks. Why one outreach worker is calling the action unfair. And
I feel like I'm being extorted. And I pretty much told the owner that, like I told him, this is beyond my control.
a parking nightmare for one Detroit woman who racked up a $3,000 bill after leaving her car in a Toronto lot just before the first lockdown. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Well, it's official. At the urging of Toronto and Peel's top doctors, the Ford government announced today both regions will remain under a stay-at-home order for at least 2 more weeks. York Region, meanwhile, will move out of lockdown and into the less restrictive red zone beginning on Monday. Chris Glover has all the details.
Brian Jackson is delivering meals for his new catering company. His popular Toronto brunch spot, Starving Artist, has been decimated during COVID.
We started a catering company called Kitsch Catering. I'm sorry.
Painful to even watch him try to explain what he's been through this past year. Yet today, he's relieved the province is extending current restrictions in Toronto for another 2 weeks, fearing reopening now would be short-lived.
They're going to open us up and then cut us off. It's just doom. It's just like if they didn't get us before, they're going to get us now.
I've been unwavering when it comes to supporting our local health officials.
Doug Ford announcing today he's following local requests, a 2-week extension to the stay-at-home order in Toronto, Peel, and North Bay to get a handle on spreading variants. In Toronto and Peel alone, more than 120 variant cases have been confirmed now, and more than 600 additional are suspected.
And they're rising, by the way, under very strict measures and restrictions, which means that if you start to open it up, there's going to be further spread of the variant.
Monday, York will join Durham, Halton, and Hamilton in the less restrictive red zone, allowing for activities like indoor dining. Boris Fong is already taking reservations for Monday at his Newmarket restaurant.
It's been so long that I forgot what it feels like to have people in here. But yeah, it's good news, and as long as we do it properly and keep everyone safe.
York's medical officer requested red zone, citing lower incident rates and investigations finding businesses operating underground anyway.
It's pretty confusing to me why there's such a difference of opinion. Having said that, I can tell you for sure the virus doesn't know what side of Steeles Avenue it's on.
And some doctors fear a patchwork of restrictions across the GTA could lead people to travel.
They bring their risk with them, and that's what we want to avoid because it really does defeat the purpose.
Doug Ford's response, just don't.
We can't put up roadblocks and all the rest. It's just not feasible.
Leaving responsibility in all our hands.
I think people are itching to get out, but by opening now, is it going to be too soon?
Help local businesses now handcuffed for 2 more weeks by just staying home. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
Developing news tonight in Ontario's Long-Term Care COVID-19 Commission. We're learning that next week the Commission will interview high-ranking provincial government officials, including Medical Officer of Health Dr. David Williams, Health Minister Christine Elliott, and Minister of Long-Term Care Mary Lee Fullerton. The Independent Commission is looking into how the province handled the deadly spread of COVID-19 in long-term care homes. And turning to the province's vaccine rollout, vaccinations for people ages 80 and up living in the community are likely still a month away. Bigger vaccine shipments are starting to come into Ontario and should continue through to March. Lorenda Redekop has a look at the latest timeline.
People 80 plus living in the community recently got bumped up to phase 1 for vaccinations, but they'll still be waiting a month and maybe longer.
We don't think we can get at it right in the first week or 10 days of March, but by the middle of March, we want to be able to start vaccinating those 80 years of age and older.
The groups ahead of them include seniors in congregate settings like retirement homes, along with frontline healthcare workers. Then others 80 and up will get their turn. Many seniors and their children have been wondering how and when they'll be able to register.
We will be reaching out to them in the next week to 2 weeks to tell them when their opportunity is going to become available, where they can go to book their appointments, either online or through a phone line.
He says people will receive a card with more details. More than 180,000 doses of Pfizer vaccine are expected to arrive next week, with similar shipments arriving every week through the end of March. More than 47,000 Moderna doses are on the way next week. April is when vaccines are expected to really ramp up. That's when phase 2 begins, including seniors under 80, non-frontline healthcare workers, and essential workers. People with high-risk conditions are also included.
As one of the medical officers of health said to me, we've got a 3M model. We're going to have mass vaccination sites, we're going to have mobile vaccination sites, and we are going to have many vaccination sites.
He says they'll include pharmacies and doctors' offices. The opposition leader wanted to hear more firm details.
In a week or two, we might be seeing the thousands of vaccinations a day. It didn't sound that like they have it nailed down. And at this point, that's pretty troubling.
Toronto is already preparing for 9 mass vaccination clinics to open by April 1st. One is at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, the site of an earlier 2-day pilot project. It's one of 4 locations already set up and ready to go. General Hillier says they're challenging all public health units to be vaccinating 10,000 people a day. Toronto wants to hit 400,000 people a week. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto police are asking for the public's help in an assault investigation. It happened on December 22nd on Beverly Street, just south of College. Police releasing a video of what happened. They say a 76-year-old woman was jogging when a man riding a bike on the sidewalk narrowly missed her. The victim continued to jog when the cyclist doubled back and approached her from behind. The suspect then struck the victim with such force that she falls into the street. He then kicks her in the head. Police say she sustained substantial injuries. They are releasing this photo of the suspect. The man is described as 25 to 30 years old. He was last seen carrying an extra-large backpack and riding a bike with a black and white frame, which may have had a fender attached. And Toronto police say they believe a man missing since late January was killed, even though they haven't found a body.
We've continued an investigation into him being missing. We've interviewed people. We've gathered a significant amount of video evidence, and we've forensically examined the scene, and that has led investigators to believe this is now a homicide.
57-year-old Nathaniel Britell was last seen on January 21st near Westona Street and Dixon Road. On February 2nd, 2 police officers were injured while searching for him. A man attacked them with a butcher knife after they knocked on a door. Police are still investigating the relationship between Britell and the knife-wielding man, but at this point, there's nothing to determine he was responsible for Britell's death. Homicide investigators are now asking anyone with information to come forward. And homicide detectives have taken over the investigation into a house fire in Georgetown, where 2 people were found dead. Halton police say the man and woman's deaths have been deemed suspicious. The victims have yet to be identified, but police say they're believed to be the occupants of the home. The city is asking a court to order a local carpenter from building small wooden shelters for the homeless and placing them in Toronto parks. It applied for the court injunction this week, saying the structures pose a safety hazard and are interfering with efforts to relocate people indoors. But some outreach workers are calling the city's action unfair, saying many simply have nowhere to stay warm. Dahlia Ashry reports.
Hundreds of homeless people have fled Toronto shelters since the start of the pandemic, fearful of contracting COVID-19. Khalil Seavright is a local carpenter who started building wooden shelters for the homeless community last fall. But now the City of Toronto has issued an injunction against him and anyone who places the structures in city parks. Lorraine Lamb, an outreach worker, is calling the injunction against Seavright unfair.
I think the city issuing an injunction is a deflection of their responsibility to have been providing options for some of our most vulnerable people.
The city says the small wooden shelters that have been popping up across several parks in the GTA are a safety concern.
These structures are making it challenging and difficult to encourage people who are living outside to come inside where it is safer, where the issue of fires, for example, is removed.
One man died on Wednesday after a tented wooden structure caught fire in an encampment in the Corktown area. It isn't clear who built the structure involved in the fire. In 2020, Toronto Fire Services responded to 253 fires in encampments, a 250% increase from 2019. They say the structures and the contents inside are a fire hazard. Toronto Fire says they've been working to raise more awareness on fire safety.
They speak to people and they hand out printed materials on how to avoid a fire from happening. So we take a proactive approach in making sure that we educate those that are living in these encampments.
Lamb says beyond fire safety, the city needs to open up more safe spaces for those in need.
So we really actually need to just provide good options for people. And when people are given the right options, they will take them. So the city needs to step up.
The city says it's in the works.
The City of Toronto has a 10-year affordable housing plan. Housing, takes time to build, unfortunately.
Steve Wright did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Last Thursday, he said he will no longer be building the wooden shelters, but says he will be maintaining and relocating them. The city says a hearing date for the injunction has yet to be set. Dahlia Ashry, CBC News, Toronto.
It's been an almost year-long parking nightmare for one Detroit woman. She parked her car near Pearson Airport before the start of the pandemic. Now, to get it back, she's being asked to pay thousands of dollars. Greg Ross has the story.
We decided to fly out of Pearson.
When Kim Richardson flew to Europe last March, she first drove from Detroit to Toronto, parking her car, a 2004 Honda Element, at this Park to Sky Airport parking lot on Dixon Road.
Paid for up and I think through the 24th. That's when our flight was supposed to come back in.
But just days after leaving, plans changed thanks to the pandemic.
Our flight changed from flying into Toronto into Detroit because the Canadian-US border was closed.
Richardson says she called the parking lot several times and sent emails in the weeks after getting home, but says she was unable to get a response. Her car sat in the Park to Sky lot for 10 months before she says she finally got in touch with the owner. He told her that if she wanted her car back, she would have to pay $2,800 in storage fees.
Like I told him, this is beyond my control, and they weren't willing to work with me at all. They were trying to tell me that the $2,800 that they're trying to charge me is cutting me a deal.
We called the number for the parking lot, and the man who answered the phone told us he was the owner, but didn't want to give us his name or appear on camera. He did tell us that he believes $2,800 is far less than Richardson owes. And he also told us he had other American clients who were parked here at the start of the pandemic and that they all found a way to get their cars. He said some even paid to have their cars towed all the way to the border. The parking lot is almost completely empty now, aside from Richardson's car. The owner says he's no longer in business. He doesn't seem willing to negotiate his price, and Richardson says $2,800 is more than the car is worth.
I mean, it's not a Mercedes, it's an 04 Honda. It's not.
Richardson wants the lot owner to waive any extra fees so she can have her car towed to the border, which she says will be costly in itself. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, have you been charged an environmental fee when buying a new electronic item lately?
You settled on something, suddenly a fee comes up. It is frustrating.
Under Ontario's new recycling regulations, manufacturers and retailers are responsible for recycling their used products, but the cost of that could be fronted by consumers. We'll have that story after the break. Plus,
the all-important weekend forecast coming up. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy, and we'll also take a peek at this next system that's coming in Sunday night into Monday. That's all after the break.
Welcome back. If you bought new electronics recently, you may have noticed an added charge tacked onto your purchase. As of January 1st, shoppers have been paying environmental handling fees under the province's new electronics recycling regulation. The fees were eliminated for 2 years because of a surplus, but now they're back and confusing some consumers. Angelina King explains.
If you look at the transaction,
when Mohammed Zaki bought a new TV last month, the process turned out to be more complicated than he thought. He noticed a $32 environmental handling fee added to his purchase.
I've never came across that before. I Googled it and then I found nothing about the subject.
So he looked into it further and discovered the fee wasn't charged at other stores.
Well, the whole thing is confusing.
Under Ontario's new rules, producers, so manufacturers and retailers, are individually responsible for recycling their products and the cost that comes with it. They can absorb that cost or pass it on to customers, either by building it into the price or as a separate fee, which means you could be charged different prices for the same product.
Different practices between different retailers, which just does not make sense.
Environmental handling fees aren't new to consumers in Ontario. Up until 2 years ago, manufacturers and retailers were collectively charged set fees under one recycling program. Those fees were eliminated after it netted almost $110 million in surplus. The province says the new rules are expected to cost consumers less, reduce more waste, and encourage recycling innovation.
We don't really see why there needs to be an environmental fee at all.
The Consumers Council of Canada says since recycling costs aren't consumers' responsibility, the fee should be built into the price, the way labor, material, and production costs are.
The price that you see should be the price that you pay.
But the Recycling Council of Ontario says while seeing different fees may be confusing, it should have benefits in the long run by encouraging producers to green more of their products. Although it says producers should have to explain how the new fees work.
But there must be some consumer protection and transparency around the connection between those fees and the actual cost of the recycling.
The new regulation doesn't change how consumers recycle electronics. Depending on where you live, they can be picked up or you can drop them off at a depot or certain electronic stores. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
The GTA was hit with its second of 2 big storms this week, making for some slippery conditions on the roads. Snow squalls dumped as much as 15 centimeters, capping off what was already a very snowy week in the city. Ontario Provincial Police say they have seen hundreds of accidents in the past several days, with many drivers losing control of their vehicles and ending up in the ditch. Police are urging people to drive slowly and stay distance from other cars on the road as crews continue to clean up messy streets and highways. Partly cloudy tonight with a few flurries developing overnight. Currently, it's about -3 downtown. Colette Kennedy joins us now. And Colette, still some flurries, but things have mostly calmed down, at least here in the city, but not long before the next system comes along.
Yeah, they just keep coming at us, Kelda, so I'm going to walk everyone through the timing of that. And you're right, we're not seeing as much, certainly for the GTA. It's more the flurry activity. However, a little to the northwest of the city. Snow squalls tonight through Grey Bruce, Huron-Perth, through those regions, and even some winter weather travel advisories for Barrie, Orillia, towards Midland there. We are going to have some breezy conditions and kind of changeable skies on Saturday, so some sunshine at times, scattered flurries as well into the GTA, and then more cloud cover, so it'll be kind of mix up, a mash up until we get to the latter part of the day. We'll get better clearing. That allows for a cooler night Saturday into Sunday morning, though, without that cloud cover. And then it's Sunday night, the arrival of our next system that'll be moving through, and that lingers into Monday morning. So you really want to be monitoring things over the weekend because you'll probably need extra time on Monday if you do need to be commuting and you're not working from home. Daytime highs today, you can see that we did pretty good. I mean, temperatures are running a little bit below seasonal, but really we're going to be getting into some much milder conditions here coming up. Wait till you see the numbers for Monday, Tuesday. But lake effect snows, as I mentioned, in terms of the accumulations, 5, it's highly localized. You know how this is up to 15 centimeters that we could be seeing in the watch areas, and there, over there in that turquoise is where we have that winter weather travel advisory that I just mentioned. So Saturday, that's where we get this kind of mix. You'll see some of those squalls setting up, the northwesterly breeze, 20 to 40 kilometers an hour, some of those winds at times. So that's going to bring us a little bit of lake effect flurry activity. And also we'll be seeing, like I said, some sun in there. But really, I want to get you into Sunday. Now, much of the beginning part of this day should be quite good in terms of sky conditions, not having the active weather, having some sun. But late day, clouds will be increasing. And then at Sunday night, we're going to see this wet snow moving in. As temperatures will be relatively mild. It does look like it's going to be in the form of snow, but as we go into the day on Monday, we may begin to see that mixing with some rainfall as the temperature rises. So as this rolls through, midday Monday kind of peeling away, snowfall potential. This is still a few days out, so really take this with a grain of salt, but in that 5 to 10 centimeter range. And I see pockets here towards the west where, and also to some higher elevations, that may be enhanced up to closer to 15. Tonight, Windsor, how about -8 with some flurries, Leamington as well. And then tomorrow, you will get some sunny breaks, some flurry risks in there, but there'll be some sun, -2 for the high. And here we go with the numbers for tonight. -7 to -9 all around the Golden Horseshoe. Those flurries are really quite scattered in nature, so you're not going to get them everywhere. And then into tomorrow, just remember those winds will be picking up, but those temperatures are pretty decent, trying to get there up to freezing. As we really go towards Sunday, that's when the temperature starts to come up further through that overnight hour. And look at by Monday, 3 degrees. That's why any lingering moisture, it's really going to be some wet snow, turns over to a mix. Still, another system kind of, or at least a residual here, we get into some flurries, maybe again mixing with some drizzle into Tuesday, because look at that temperature, and still mild for Wednesday, Kelda, 3 degrees the high.
All right, thanks so much, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Finally tonight, 2021 has been declared the Year of Public Art in Toronto, leading one collective to embark on a Climate Solutions Murals series.
Because of COVID, we've had to pivot, and so we've taken our climate solutions messaging out into the streets, making sure that we collaborate with neighborhoods and communities with the climate solutions that are relevant to them. It's an important time with businesses closed, like poetry, to give them the opportunity to use their space in a way that's recognizable.
Tonight, they virtually revealed the first mural in their series. It was painted by Toronto sign artist Danilo Delexo on the storefront of a local cafe in Kensington Market. Those involved say the mural conveys a need for systemic change to overcome social and environmental injustices. They hope it will empower Canadians to, quote, fight for a more equitable and resilient country. And that's our show for you tonight and for the week. Thank you so much for watching. Maribel Tarouk has your next local news tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.